All right, welcome to another week of Podding with PT. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Patrick.
We got two special guests coming from Northern Jersey, Bloomfield in particular. We got my boy Keith and we got Stan coming on. They got their own podcast themselves, Liquor Logic. Check it out on Spotify. How you guys doing today?
Doing well,
We're
man.
doing all right. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Keith's dressed up nice for us too. He got the tie on.
Looking like a CEO myself right now, right?
Yep. There you go.
Glad to have you guys on.
So I just wanted to start, both of you guys, whoever wants to go first, just kind of talk a little bit about yourselves, what you guys do now, and just kind of what got you to that point.
All right, cool. All right, so my name's Stan. You know, on the podcast you're gonna hear me. This Suave Stan, you know what's up. So a little quick background. Right now I work in a hospital in the psychiatric unit. Mental health associate. So what I do is basically work with the patients, you know, help them out with anything that they need. And the patients that I work with in particular, those with schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, you know, the list goes from A to Z. And so what we try to do is, you know, kind of help those patients, you know, stabilize and put them and bring them back into society, you know, in a safe manner. And we deal with people with, you know, high acuity, especially now with, you know, mental health is really kind of like hitting right now, you know, for our community, for our society. It's good that we're very knowledgeable about what's going on now. So really getting that help is really key. So I'm glad to be in this space. But prior to that, like I was saying before, prior to that, I worked in a physical therapy office. I was just doing secretary work because I had my bachelor's degree in exercise science. But after about like 2 years of doing that, I figured I wanted something a little bit more deep because I started, you know, reading different things about psychology and stuff, and I found that piquing my interest. And I said, hey, why don't I actually try to run with this? And so with that, I was still able to use my health degree. Thankful for that. And work in the hospital, which I was already in. It's almost like everything just kind of like started aligning once I kind of found what it is that I truly wanted to do with my life. You know, so that's kind of really it on me.
Nice. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah.
All right. So for those who don't know, my name is Marquis. You call me Keith. Like most of my boys call me. So for me, I currently am an assistant strength and conditioning coach. I work at a high school, but it's also conjoined with a middle school. So as well as spotting them and make sure they have the correct form and posture and the right technique when the student athletes are working out, or even regular students want to come in and work out. I'm also going to be moving forward in next school year. I'm going to be teaching intro to fit. So I'm going to show them properly how to work out, how to create an exercise log, how many exercises they should input, how many sets, how many reps. Prior to that, I was a substitute teacher. Ty, you remember, Stan, you know, Shamir was actually my gateway into the school that I'm currently at. He was working at the lower school over at Short Hills. I'm over in Baskin Ridge. And he was like, Keith, I think you would be great in this position, this field. I feel like, you know, the way that you respond to kids and the way they respond to you, you'll be perfect because you already have a background of coaching now under your feet. After we coached at Seton Hall Prep together for football, he was like, yeah, this will be a perfect spot for you, I feel. And he wasn't wrong at all because prior to that, I also was working in the physical therapy field because I was trying to become a PT. And I was a physical therapy aide for about a good solid 2 years because I was there since 2019. I was literally there since till through the pandemic in the summer of 2020. And then I skedaddled out of there because I just felt like, I don't know, I felt like the geriatric population just wasn't my calling because I enjoyed working with the youth a lot more and seeing how they respond and how I respond to them and how we really click and mesh well together. Not saying that it's not possible to work with student athletes, but it just feels like a lot more likely that I was going to be with the older population. And it just, the mood and the vibe wasn't the same. It's all about vibes for me.
Yeah.
And there was one time I had a patient who was he was a young lacrosse kid, and I'll never forget him. His name was Brady. Go figure. And crazy. He was struggling with math, and him and I were hitting off the bat. We were just talking sports and whatnot. And then he admitted to me that he wasn't doing so hot. And I told him, I said, well, you know, since you got a lot of time here when you come in, while you're waiting for your therapist to come, because I do the majority of the exercises when I was the aide. He was like, can I bring my homework in to you and you check it over? I said, absolutely, I got you. So he would do that every time he come on his visits for PT. And while we're in the midst of talking football and basketball and hockey, he would pull out his homework and show me it, and I would help and show him different ways and avenues to getting the correct answer. I always tell him like it's never just one way to get an answer in math. That's why I always liked math in that aspect. And then he did so well. He went from a C minus all the way up to an A, and his mom appreciated that so much. Where she was like, "Can you become his tutor?" And I was like, "I don't know, that'd be against HIPAA, HIPAA rules or laws." So I respectfully declined it, but they baked me a cake. It was like an Oreo style cake and whatnot.
Hey.
And it was fire. She was like, "I think you have a passion in working with the youth, and I think you should pursue that. Not that you can't do well here in the physical therapy world, but she was like, I feel like the education route might be better for you, and she hasn't steered me wrong ever since. So that's all she wrote, and that's why I'm here now."
It's dope that both of you guys kind of found your calling, I feel like, through PT, which is pretty cool. And I feel like for us too, is like we see so many people with so many different conversations that it could spark you for some reason. It was like, and it could be just a random day that someone randomly says one thing, you're like, oh shit, I never thought about that.
Right.
Yeah.
What age group do you typically work with right now for strength and conditioning?
Oh, for me, I would say anywhere from 11, 12-year-olds to 18-year-olds. So it's a nice range because the middle schoolers are like deer caught in headlights. There's a new world for them. You guys remember how we all were in middle school, not really working out like that. So we didn't know what in the world we were doing. We didn't know what a bench press was, what dumbbells were. So it's really like a learning curve with them. So I kind of gotta spoon feed them a bit compared to when I'm with, the upperclassmen in the high school level. I gotta actually try to pull them back a bit because they want to hit PRs every single day, I'm like, ease into it, like don't hurt your body. So that's the excitement and joy that I get out of that. And so it's never a dull moment in there for sure.
Hey, peace. And Stan, you can speak on this too. I've been trying to tell him New Jersey football is like that.
Oh man,
like New Jersey football is like that. You can make that face all you want.
Hey, look, I'm from the South. I mean, like, how can you like go against like Southern football? Like, it's just life. Like Texas football, Florida. I mean, but we out here.
But
one thing I will say, I guess in the South, y'all really do eat, breathe, and sleep that. You know what I mean? But in Jersey, don't get it twisted.
Don't sleep.
You know what I'm saying? When it comes to that football, we really get right.
I was like, Keith, how many of your players got D1 offers? I didn't even know Seton Hall was like that. Bro. I gotta say, y'all are traders though. You and Shamir traders.
It ain't even like that, bro. It ain't even like that because Lil Hanson wasn't trying to hire us. That's what happened. So that's not our fault.
I was like, man, how y'all gonna beat St. Peter's? And that was like one of their best years.
That was wild. And it was Hanson last year at that time. That was crazy. But nah, man, Pat, literally Jersey football and specifically North Jersey football is easily top 7 in the country. Like there's no debate about that. It's top 7. Now I will say what gives you guys the upper hand is you guys got football year round because of where you're located. Like y'all ain't got the 4 seasons like we do, or 3.5 or 2.5, because world been crazy with all this temperature change and climate change. But that's a topic for another day. But y'all have an advantage that we could never have, and that's y'all have warm weather pretty much all year round. So I wish we had that here in Jersey, because I promise you, Pat, if we had like one season all year, what type of weather?
Got hella people too.
Texas, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Hey, when I think of like, look, I will admit, that's some hitters that came out of Jersey, but I feel like you got prep schools that you got more money going towards that shit. I don't know. That's just me. But in the South, also we put more money towards it because we don't care about anything else. I know at my high school we have like a practice. We have like an inside facility. Like, we're in the middle of nowhere. It's like 2 hours to the closest mall, but we got an indoor facility. So when it's raining or when it's cold, like we're still practicing. Like there's
damn.
That's tough.
Like, but we don't play football all year long. Like most of these athletes, like basketball, like multiple sports. So it's like we just out here, and there's nothing else to do but just play sports and work out. Like, hey.
No, I love that.
But so I always bring up to him, I was like, hey, never forget when Arkansas was like that in the top 10, who was the team that beat them? That was Rutgers. and nobody puts any respect on Rutgers' name.
They never do, man.
Nah.
They never do.
Even we barely put their respect on Rutgers. And we listen.
I know.
It started like the downhill slide where look, we won like 4 games in like 2 years. We beat like some North Illinois state or whatever. So like, come on, like we were on the way down, but we up now. We back. So that's
I hear you. Hey Todd, his squad still can't touch our squads though. So it's all
That's
good.
what I'm saying.
Who's the squad?
Well, I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan at the end of the day. You know, you feel me? No bandwagon. Ty and Stan can attest this. I've been a lifer.
Yeah, he's been there for a while with them.
I was ready to speak on your behalf when y'all played, but
Oh, look, it was a tough game.
It was a tough game.
You know?
Georgia, oh man.
Hey, look, you know what I'm saying? Our first road game, first time being in the top 10 in a minute, you know. Hey, but next year, hey.
The future might be bright for y'all, man. I can't even hate.
Hey, we like that. And KJ Jefferson for Heisman, just be on the look.
All right. I remember that name. I'll make sure I remember that.
Well, I kind of want to pivot a little bit. First, my question for you, Stan, is how long have you been working at the psychiatric unit?
So literally 2 weeks ago, I made a year. So
okay.
I just got the job, to be honest with you.
So and I don't know if anybody's talked about it at work. What has that kind of been like with your population and COVID? Because I'm imagining how much that probably increased and stuff with quarantine and all that.
Yeah, so it was really interesting because when I first got the job, they were really like COVID was really heavy. So they were going through their protocols. And like I said, the population that I'm dealing with is people who, you know, have little patience. They, you know, they don't understand, you know, the mask that you're putting on their face, they, you know, kind of really say like, yo, this is suffocating me. Like really like, you know, I'm not wearing this. Or even you have to continuously remind them to follow these protocols, you know, saying the same thing to them. And, you know, and then when I start to think about what I'm dealing with here in a closed-in facility, think about what's going on outside, where you got people who are not following these protocols, who might be, you know, kind of maybe have the illness and then spreading it around, but not consciously thinking about that. So it was a lot to deal with. I know that even for the nurses who had like patients who like on the COVID floors or whatnot, it was really tough for them during that time, having to wear all the PPE, you know, and like it was, for some, they even say it was a little traumatic because they would see like, you know, a lot of bodies and things like that. So, you know, not knowing if they go into a room, if they're gonna, you know, come out still healthy, if they're gonna bring something back home to their families. So in that respect, it was tough. But as the year started going on, things started to get a little bit better. Seemingly that we kind of got, you know, understanding a little bit more of what we're doing in order to combat and keep our patients safe and keep ourselves safe. Things going on still, yeah. So we just gotta continuously, you know, invoke these kind of like rules and regulations. So, but things have been getting better. The patients that we had, like at one point, like I said in the beginning, we have a 20 bed unit, 20 patient unit, excuse me. And so at that time, it was cut down to half. So we only had like 10 patients on a unit when COVID was really like rampant. And during that time, not only did they have to wear the mask, but they would also have to stay in their room only, and we would have to watch them through a camera. So think about, you know, it's bad enough you're in a closed lockdown unit and you can't go outside, can't get fresh air. Now you're only, you know, kind of like restricted to your quarters. So it's like anybody would, you know, not to be ironic, but anybody would go crazy in a situation like that.
Yeah,
but
honestly.
Since then we kind of like grew from it.
Yeah, I definitely just like working in that environment sounds very stressful, and like feel like it's so easy to take a lot of that on yourself. Like, what are some of the things that you do to like keep yourself like in a good headspace?
You know, all right. So that's really key that you harped on, because it is easy to kind of like take it all in, soak it all in. And the kind of person I am, I'm very like empathetic to somebody's situation, what they're going through. And so when I, kind of like to de-stress when I come home, I really try to obviously take my shower, really relax. But big thing is for me, meditation and gratitude, understanding that where I am, the things that I have in my life, to sit there and really take some time to be grateful for that. To sit down in mindfulness. Like I said, I work at 3 o'clock. I do 3 to 11. So during that time, before going to work, I'll take a lot of time for myself, whether it just be sit outside and read or, just relax a little bit. And then also kind of like having somebody to talk to. I'm really big on communication between me and my lady. So like sometimes I just let her know like, yo, man, today was, kind of hectic. But being able to kind of like, kind of tell her a little bit about my day, kind of like not hold it all in. It kind of helps me to, kind of let that stress go and not hang on to it.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
things
huge.
like that.
We talk
Finding that,
about that
yeah.
too, just like
Hmm.
not taking home stuff from work, because it's easy when people are in a vulnerable place, like you probably imagine as well. And
Right.
Keith, you too, just like people are coming to you for your help, and it's
Yeah.
really hard sometimes to really just not take on everything that they're doing, or like what could I have done better in that
Hmm.
situation. It's nice sometimes is like pretty much like, hey, this is how I can get better tomorrow, by saying what could I have done. But then I find myself a lot of the times where I'm like, shit, I've been thinking too much about that session, or what could I have done better. It was like sometimes it's nice just to take what you need from it and then move forward and keep it pushing.
Yep. Yep.
And for Keith as well, I'm sure like working with kids are highly emotional states and just going through a lot of family situations. How do you kind of cope with that as well?
For me, definitely my faith. I definitely prayed a lot. I was reading some scriptures a bit, which I gave me some central grounding. More family time because we need each other more than ever in the last 2 years. It was crazy over here. Like I've never seen so much hectic times for my family to these last 2 years. So a lot more family time, having, a game night, you know, or just even as simple as not having TV on, removing our phones, just disengaging from all entertainment and just being it and soaking in the moment of each other's presence, hearing each other, being vulnerable. Because I feel like besides your lady, you could be very vulnerable with your with your family, especially your immediate, if you guys have that
Hmm.
type of relationship.
Hmm.
So that was helping me stay sane, especially too. Work was stressful too, from worrying about catching this mess to just the everyday headaches that you get from work in general, and having to unplug all of that you had to, soak in, especially as a Black man too, because that was another thing we were going through, all of us in some sort of fashion. We had to find a way to kind of disengage from society and just to recharge, because it was just draining every day, seeing everything on the news was taxing. That's why I was like, you got to turn the TV off, because every day you're just seeing all that stuff, and after a while you just become numb to it.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely for me it was my faith, and my faith has been growing day by day, and definitely family time. My family's huge. I'm a big family guy, so uh, I would definitely I would say that catered a lot to helping me stay sane.
Yeah. And then you talk a little bit about work has been stressful. How have you kind of dealt? I feel like for you, you're in a good avenue of teaching wise, and then now going into coaching. Like, how do you kind of apply those principles for each, or do you see overlap? Obviously.
Yeah, so I always say, I'm like, pretty much, Ty, like you were pretty much alluding to, teaching and coaching are very similar, because you're still, guiding the youth in a certain avenue and path, and they're gonna listen to whatever you say, and especially that the bond that I've built with these kids, they trust and believe any and everything I tell them. So I got to make sure I stay on top of everything that I'm saying. But I'm always first to tell them too, I'm not a perfect person. So I tell them I don't have the answers to everything. So if I don't have an answer, I'm gonna go get that answer for you, and I'll relay it back to you in some sort of fashion. Um, but for me as well, I just think about, because I was a former player all the way up to college. So I just think about what it was like for me as a student athlete in high school, both when I was with Utah at St. Peter's Prep, and Stan when I was with you at Bloomfield High. I I just think back to how it was for us in those days, and I'm like, things haven't changed that much, except that their athleticism has grown and gotten better.
Yeah.
But I still remember what it was like once, when you're on that field or you're in that gym or you're on that court, or you're on that mat, you're forgetting everything that you were going through throughout the day for school or family. But, that's like a time frame, a window. And then once that's done, you come right back home and all that stuff starts to come back. So it's like, you gotta start studying for a test. So you have to write a 5-page paper. And I tell them that, I'm like, you gotta find a balance. Because I was a big time procrastinator all the way up to college. Stan though. Like literally, I would do stuff literally like at midnight. I've been pulling all nighters in college and stuff. I tell them, don't be like Coach O. Don't be like Coach O. But it happens. But I tell them, like, if you plan accordingly, if that's your nature and your personality, it's gonna do you a lot more good in the long run, and it'll be less draining and taxing on your body. Just some gems I try to give them just from learning experience. I feel like that's the best way to be able to help these kids out is think about your learning experience that you had in their footsteps and their shoes, because I feel like these kids forget that we were once their age. It's crazy. We talk like that. We only in our 20s and stuff. It's crazy.
Thinking back, I was like, when I remember when I was in high school, like I just couldn't even fathom my teachers, my coaches being my age. Like it just wasn't a thought.
Yeah, nah.
If it was a thought, I was like, I don't know what that looked like. And I was like,
Facts. And I also too, another thing I'm at this point too is by me being a Black man, I try to put that into perspective for them and let them understand I never really had a Black teacher growing up since I was in kindergarten. So I want them to know that they can always come to me as a reliable resource. Use me as, if you need me as a letter of recommendation for anything. You can come to me about advice. You can come to me if you want to talk about your hair texture and stuff like that, and how people are deeming you or viewing you, not just in school, but on the teams, after school, because you're a whole different in your true self when you're outside of school, once you're playing sports and stuff like that. Your true identity comes out. That's why I always tell them, like, be yourself when you come into the weight room, because I feel like that's your true self. So yeah, I like to let them know, like, I'm a safe space and a safe person you can come to and talk to whenever they need any type of motivation, advice, life lessons, any of that. Like I always have an open door for them. Especially our students that look like us.
Keith is a clown too. I've seen so many videos of him running sprints with his players and hurting his hamstring. I was like, I can see why. Open environment.
Oh man,
I think you do a really good job at even just like meeting people where they're at. Because I know for me personally in high school, like I really didn't care that much about at school as I do now, or didn't see as much of a value. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll just skate by, get like B plus, call it a day. And then I got to college and I was like, oh, so B is above an 85. And that really is not going to get me anything but average. So I had to see the value in it when I got like a 2.7 my first semester. So I was like, oh shit, I need to actually get a good GPA to keep my scholarship and all that stuff. So, and that helps me nowadays with physical therapy a little bit more, is like, you got to meet people where they're at, because they don't see the value sometimes the way you see it after you've been through all your experiences. And if you could just kind of speak on that in terms of how you were in high school and how you kind of dealt with all that stuff too.
Stan, you want to take this or you want me to start it?
Nah, man, you could take that one.
So for me, like I said, I was a big time procrastinator. I was the same way as you. I was always like settling, like, all right, cool. I was content. If I get a B, cool. If I were to get if I got an A, I'm like, oh, that's great. But I wasn't pressed, So I try to tell them, like, especially at the school that I'm at, I know they are big and harp on academics first. Like, it's like academics, and then it's athletics. And I come from an athletic background and upbringing, so it's kind of hard for me to always want to put academics before athletics. But it was my sophomore year in college when I had the wake up call, because I had a bad fall semester of that year, and I was still playing football at that time in Connecticut. And the first thing that I saw was, as my grades were slipping, it's like, well, if these grades keep slipping, my head coach even said, he was like, Marquis, if your grades keep slipping, you're not going to be on the team, straight up. So I'm like, that puts things into perspective, because I'm like, football is my pride and joy and passion. And I'm like, I'll be damned if I let something that I can control with these academics and these grades be the reason why I can no longer play on the gridiron or on the turf. Like, I'm not going to let myself hinder that. So I try to tell the kids that they definitely get your work done. Don't procrastinate. and definitely go get help. That was something that I always would struggle with in high
Mhm.
school, because it was more of like a pride. You know how us men are. It was a pride thing for me, even as a 15 through 18-year-old guy, where I didn't want to go seek help, because you always felt like you were to try to go to help, you felt like you were kind of slow. You thought you were stupid. But in reality, probably more times than not, half the questions you're asking, the majority of the rest of the classroom has those same questions in some sort of fashion. So like I tell them one time, like, don't ever feel like you're being judged or whatever. Ask those questions. That's how you learn, you know. Because the less you ask, the less you're gonna know. So always
Yep.
ask questions. So that's what I could definitely attest to for myself. And I saw the change for myself both throughout my time in high school and in college when I went to go get help. So that's what I
Yeah.
tell my kids.
100%. I think that's extremely important, just to know, like, be open,
Yeah.
be vulnerable, because it was like you learn more by putting yourself out there and asking those questions. I got lucky in grad school. I always had a question, but luckily we had a kid that would always ask those hard questions that everyone would be like, "Why are you asking that question?" But I was like, "Thank God somebody did." So I was like, inspire, be that person for
Right.
somebody else that might be like, "All right, I want to ask a question, but I feel dumb if I ask this in front of 70 other
Mhm.
people."
Right.
Mhm.
And for me, it's like the going to college and grad school is like there is therapy on. They provide therapy.
Wow.
It's like uh, for me, it's like when do I have the time? Like I don't create
Mm.
myself to go. Or like the importance, like so now, like doing the trying to find myself a lot of reading, a lot of this. I was like, all right, I see the importance of therapy. But like in school, when I felt like I was crashing, I was like, I don't have time for that because I have to study. Like
Yep.
there's so much things going on around me, I don't have time for myself. And so now it's like I mean, I say I wish I would have took myself up on like actually using those services that was available. But I mean, it ultimately got me to here, and now I can help others. It's like, all right, this is what I went through. You don't have to do this. And so, like,
Mhm.
even being a physical therapist, like, you you, you turn into a coach, and you're essentially a teacher. You're like you're helping people through this rehab process, and it's like, all right, here are some things you can think about, things to do, and just kind of be that guy for them if they ask you to be that.
Yeah, I think you could
That's
probably speak
key.
on this pretty strongly, Stan. I think the same thing goes back to like meeting someone where they're at. Like in college, you didn't see the importance of it as much, and now that you've had the time to go through that experience, I was like, all right, this is actually really important, maybe to make me better there. And then, so for you, Stan, what do you kind of do for that? What are the questions you ask yourself for
And
kind of find yourself after work, maybe?
you mean so the kind of questions that I ask myself after work in terms of
Just like your mental health. So it's like, all right, I'm trying to reflect on my day, or I'm trying to make myself a little bit better. What questions do I ask myself, and kind of find that inner peace?
got you. So some kind of questions that I kind of ask myself, especially after work, is kind of I know they're kind of like you said, meeting people where they're at. So when it comes to my patients, I try to really see, all right, I come back home and I reflect. Did I kind of like present myself in the best way? Was I short with them when they were asking me a question, or did I actually give myself up, fully and give them that time that they deserve? Because especially working in a hospital setting, you can find yourself being like you have all these other assignments to do. You don't always have time to answer the same question, multiple times and keep going over the same thing. So I try not to be short, but let them know that like, yo, you got something to say? I'm here. I'm receptive, and let's handle it. So I come back home and I kind of like dwell on that. I kind of really introspective in that kind of way. So every day I try to get better in that kind of sense. So and also understanding people where they come from because a lot of their situation I'm not in it. I'm dealing with people who also live in, inner cities. And like I said, I live in Bloomfield. So we're pretty, pretty good compared to, when you talk about Newark or Patterson or like, and the list goes on and on. But so I try to really humble myself in understanding that like I don't know everything about like what this person's been through to get them to where they are today. So let me just be open to them and really just listen. Because a lot of times, especially in fields where we're of service, we think we know the answer. This is what you got to do, and this is what you got to, you know what I mean? But just be open and listen. You know what I mean? One thing that I picked up recently was that silent and listen, they're both, written with the same letters. You know what I mean? So you can't, you have to be silent in order to listen to somebody.
Damn,
So,
dropping some
yeah,
gems.
yeah, a little
And begin deep.
on there.
And I have a quick question. So, like, you kind of reflect on the day, and if you ever feel like you could have done something better, like, how do you not kind of like let that continue on to the next day, or like how
Got
do you
you.
implement that so you don't keep making those things?
Got you. So, especially in those times where I do like, oh damn, I really could have, let's say, you know, let's say I really could have just, kind of helped that patient out just a little bit more or give him a little more time. And so, especially, it's really difficult when it's the ones that really test you, that really test your patient. You're like, man, I got to deal with this dude again. And so, like I said, you just really try to, whether it's like scripture that you fall back on, or whether it's like, kind of, certain things like that, outlets like that. But, kind of for me, like I said, when I go back to that person the next day, I try not to let them either get the best of me. It's all about that kind of that will, to say that, to just be steadfast and trying to be like, I'm just going to be a better person. I don't know. It's kind of hard to put into words or articulate it, so to say. But and like I said, in that reflection, I just say, you know what, God, you're gonna deal with me and make me be who you want me to be the next day. So I just try to move forward in that kind of sense.
Yeah,
And try
smooth.
not to hold it too much over my head though, because I
Yeah.
think that's another big thing. Because like when you do mess up, you can't easily hold it over your head and you're just like, damn, and let it dwell on you. But let it go. The day already happened. It's already over. All you can really do is just focus on what's right now. That's another big thing. Just being present. So
You got to give yourself some grace.
yeah. You gotta just forgive yourself. Nobody's perfect. Kind of like what Keith said earlier. You're not gonna have all the answers. You're not gonna be perfect, but we all try. And that's kind of like all you can do and say like, you know what, today I'm gonna do my best. That's it, and that's all I can really do. So
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. Just be like, hey, just give your best for that patient at that time, because especially when it starts
yeah,
to get towards the end of your shift, and you're like,
right.
oh, like my energy levels are going down.
Oh,
What about you, Keith?
for me, so actually, when I come home, like I was just telling one of my basketball players this yesterday, who I gave a ride home to yesterday because he didn't live too far from me. I told him, I said, listen, I'm always Coach O. Like that never changes. But I'm like, once I'm off the premises of work, I kind of unplug and don't even think about what happened in the day like that. Unless something was really, really monumental, something that I just couldn't shake that I felt bad about. Where like, for instance, it sounds small, but maybe if I called a kid the wrong name, like I've had that happen before. 'Cause it's a lot of kids I'm seeing daily.
Mm,
I've had that happen before where I called a kid the wrong name by mistake, and you feel really bad because you remember when you were a kid, and one of the higher ups, one of the adults called you by a name that's not your name, you feel some type of way about that. And especially if you're someone that a lot of people respect, like a lot of people at my job really appreciate me, like as far as the students going to faculty too. And it's like I feel like all the spotlights are on me in case if I make a mistake. So I'm like, I got to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's. But if I make that mistake in common era of like, damn, I said that kid's name wrong. I've had it where I've gone out of my way. I sent them an email like, I apologize, da da da. Because I kept holding it over my head. But there's other times where when I'm had a stressful day, I literally will just unplug and not think about work at all. Because for me, the football field used to be my safe haven and my sanctuary. Now that's those days are behind me in terms of as a player. The weight room is now my sanctuary. So like when I'm in the weight room, everything goes. Like I just truly just unwind and don't think about anything that may have not went the best route possible. In terms of work, stuff with family, or any girl problem, whatever. You feel me? Um, I just don't even think about that. Or even if you miss your 11 leg parlay, I don't stress about it. I be in the weight room and I just get to it. And truly, I just find a sense of peace and balance being there. And I pray for for the next day to be a better day, help me be a better man, towards, those around me that I encounter. Just go on about it like that. I try not to dwell on it too much about being a tough critic. I always say we're our toughest critic. So I try to say not to be too hard on myself because I know we want to strive to be the best we could be.
Yeah. The two of you hit on a really good point, just being present and just not, or just kind of unplugging. And I think one of the things that I've learned myself is I used to think of meditation as I sit in a dark room, don't make any noise, don't do anything. It's like, but for me, I found like the gym is now my safe haven where I go there. I take like the hour and a half each day and just kind of just go through and just understand what my body needs that day. And I feel like so many people don't know that you can do anything for meditation. It could be as simple as taking a walk around the block without your phone. And I really hope that during COVID, a lot of people caught that. Because I felt like with COVID, it went one of two ways. You either sat and didn't do as much as somebody, or you went and said, all right, let me reevaluate what I'm doing in my life and what's going to make me better during this break.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
absolutely right about that. Yeah, absolutely right about that.
And I even feel like
my fault.
No, you good, bro. I don't know about you guys. But I even noticed it too, for me at least. Like not for myself personally, but from looking amongst others. I feel like some people went in reverse. Like they were like during COVID, during the lockdown and pandemic, they were doing things they weren't normally doing, but it was bettering for themselves. But then once outside opened back up, jobs were coming back, businesses were opening up, life was starting to get semi-normal. People went back to their old ways and, kind of just like forgot everything that they were kind of improving on and getting better at. So I don't know if you guys saw that in your own environments and stuff like that, or in your work fields or spaces, or even just in your neighborhood. But I definitely caught on to that and saw that. And I was just like, wow, like I barely see people walk.
Yeah.
Everybody and their mother had a bike just a year and a half ago. Now I don't see nobody hardly riding a bike. It's just crazy.
For me, it's different because I wasn't around the same people that when the pandemic started, because I was when 2020 I was in Connecticut.
Okay.
And then last year I was in Utah. I was back home in Arkansas, and then I came to California. So I was just moving around the places. But it's like even for me, it was tough. I feel like I'm still always in that process of like rediscovery. So and trying to figure out who I am, what's my goals, and especially that I won't say I feel like I always had that kind of mentality, or at least recent history, but during COVID, that really pushed it to a new brink because I'm sitting at home and I can't distract myself with activities. So I was like, damn, I'm really just here. And I watched all the shows on Netflix and everything. Yep. I was like, now it's just me and me, myself, and I. Well, all right, what we doing now?
Right.
Yeah, that's a huge thing though. But people don't understand, and I think one of the big conversations I have with people every time is like, I don't get it. I was getting better, and now I feel like I've plateaued, or now I feel like I still have my painful days. It's like realistically, you're a new person every single day that you wake up. It's like you have new stressful events. You stress your body in different ways. It's like whether you ate good today, whether you slept well. I was like, all of these things come into it. So it's like taking that time to be present every day is like your body's completely different each day based on what you kind of been going through and all that stuff. So it's annoying. It is a lot of hard work, but it was like every day you have to have that rediscovery and be like, what do I need to feed myself today and be intentional on?
Right. The Calm app has really like changed my life in like the past couple of months. I highly recommend it. Just a meditative app. Just take you through like guided meditation and really help me like be present, and they have like a meditation for all different situations. Do you guys use any apps or YouTube or any videos for that?
So I'm super big on all that, man. Like I'm on YouTube. I'm looking up like people like Alan Watts. I'm looking up people like Eckhart Tolle. Like rediscovery is like super big for me. Always trying to, like I said, my main focus. What am I gonna do to be better tomorrow? So just recently, I went to like a seminar. Like I said, Eckhart Tolle. He wrote a book called The Power of Now, and so that's like one of his hitters. Another one called The New Earth. Anyway, so another app that I like besides YouTube and looking up all these different like meditations, guided meditations and gurus. I also use this app called Gaia, and they have like they have a plethora of things like from different like documentaries and films in terms of like whether it be for your heart, your mind, you know, whether it be for like your digestion, your body, all this kind of stuff. And then also they have guided meditations, yoga, recipes for, you know what I mean, things like that. Man, it's like literally all you really need if you kind of like on that path of trying to just like, you know, just better yourself. And you could finally like kind of like pick your own little niche of how you want to do it too. So I think that's why I really like that app. And it's pretty cheap. So like only like $11, I think. So it's not too bad. But yeah, that's pretty much the things that I tap into when it comes
What
to
about you,
social life.
Keith?
So for me, when I'm not in the weight room or going around town for a run or anything like that, or going hiking or anything like that, there were times where I couldn't sleep in the last year and a half. So for me, what would help me find a center of gravity and center of peace was actually the sound of water always kind of made me, you know, distressed and feel calm. So I would go on YouTube and I would just play like ocean sounds or ocean waves, or I would play the rain. Something always about like the rain always hitting always made me sleep better. And it just naturally. So I would always go to that. That would be my way of trying to find some peace of mind, and my way of meditating. And I would just find myself calming down and relaxing. I would feel like a center of gravity where I'm just completely still and calm, and I would find a way to get some proper sleep.
Hmm.
You know? So that I know it wasn't as deep as stairs, but
Nah,
you know,
but
Hey,
you're
it's
right
funny.
though. Ocean waves are
it
ocean
be hitting, bro.
sounds.
I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out of
bro.
the count, bro. Every time.
They do. They do.
Dan, what did you think? Did you read Power of Now?
Actually, so I caught that on an audio book. And all right, little quick tip because I feel like a lot of people be like spending mad bread on like books and like you know audio books and stuff. YouTube, you will find a lot of books on YouTube. To be honest with you, I'm big on that. So like I literally went on YouTube and I heard about the dude, so I was like, let me find out. So I caught that book on there, and it really started like to open up my mind in terms of like being mindful, understanding that like a lot of your thoughts, what you say to yourself, is really not, you know what I mean, not you. It's a lot of things that you're hearing from other people, other outside sources, and then obviously in your own head, you're saying it in your own voice, and so you repeat it back to yourself. For instance, let's say I had a bad day yesterday at work, and I'm like, man, Stan, you're dumb. Why would you do something like that? You know what I mean? Oh man, I'm so stupid. You know, oh man, like I'm not a hard enough worker. You know, maybe if I did, I'd have X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? You know, not purposefully, but it happens. You know, these negative thoughts kind of come up sometimes, and when you start to realize that, like, hold up, this ain't me. I would never say something, you know, to myself like that because realize that we have to always, you know, kind of work on loving ourselves. And so when you get these kind of things from outside, you just repeat them back. Um, so that's one thing that I really liked from that book. That was key to really start to be mindful and listening to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Feel like people don't realize, and it took me a while to realize this too, just from all the books that we've been kind of diving into, is like most of your thoughts are unconscious. So it's like if you
yes,
think, I think someone
exactly.
broke it down, they said 95% of your thoughts are unconscious, and then your 5% is what's fighting against that conscious habit or unconscious habit. And I found that for myself also. It was like between that and the book Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, that is a really good.
Ah, my girlfriend love that book. Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
what I found a lot of the times for me is when I started getting into a situation, I was like, so what did I do wrong, or what is it that I'm doing that's not helping this person? And well, I was like, let me take a lot of the pressure off myself, but realizing most of this stuff has nothing to do with me. It was like they might just be
Mm-hmm.
acting out, and I come to find out some of my patients will tell me like, oh yeah, my mother died, or some so and so happened this week, I'm getting a divorce. And I was like, that all this time where they had been kind of, they acted rude to me, and one of the days was like, that had nothing to do with me or my treatment. I was like, people
Right.
come into you, and I thought this was huge for me and my rehab. People come into you as a collection of trauma. So it was like they
Mm-hmm.
might be coming into you for knee pain, but you have no idea what the collection of trauma has been to get to that knee pain. So it could be their relationships, it could be how they walk through the world, or what their thoughts even are. It's like it might have nothing to do with their knee at all, but it's an accumulation of everything else that they've kind of dealt with, or that they are currently dealing with.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that, man. And There's another book that kind of like deals with that specifically. It's called like Your Body Keeps the Score. I got it sitting right here. Actually, let me just grab it so like people can see it. Yeah. All right. So it's called The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if y'all can really see it.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I heard some good stuff about
Yep.
it.
By Bessel van der Kolk, Doctor Bessel van der Kolk, and yeah. So it's all about like brain, mind, body, and the healing of trauma. Like you said, you don't know what these people. I mean, when they come in for, like you said, whether it be hip pain or knee pain or what have you, or back pain even. Sure, you see that like all the damn time, I bet. But yeah, it's like a culmination of all other things previously up until that, the way stress works in the body. Um, and I think that's kind of like what really pulled me into, like I was saying, into the psychiatric realm, is because I started to, in my mind, like, thinking that if the mind ain't working right, then it's only going to kind of translate into the body and not really kind of working on how you really want it to. So,
Thank you for sharing. Keith, do you have any books you've been reading lately or listening to?
At the moment, I'm reading Fear is a Choice by my guy James Conner. Used to be the running back for the Steelers over at the Cardinals now. I'm a big football guy. And, pretty much for those who know, he used to have cancer. He was like a premier running back in college at Pitt. He was like a top 5 running back across the nation. And his whole world got shaken up, thinking that he wasn't going to be able to play football ever again because, the big C hit him. And, everybody, they tend to let their world crumble once they hear that they got cancer. And he took it to the chin and just treated it like it was another, football game. And, for those who are in the football world, or you like football of some sort, you can always find ways to relate and circle back to football and relate it to some sort of fashion in your own life. And he just took it to the chin, and he was grinding and got deeper in his faith with God. And he got deeper with his family, because he had a big family. He had numerous brothers. His mom was very tight with them too. They were close in the family, and he got blessed and got drafted by the Steelers, and that didn't shake him. First of all, he actually came back and beat cancer, and he got to play his final season at Pitt, and he was wilding out. And then he got blessed even more and got that call from Pittsburgh. Go figure, being a hometown hero, and got the call, and the Steelers drafted him, and he was a dog. He's been a dog since. So yeah, I went and got that book for one because I felt like when I lost my grandmother, for me, I started having, like, I'll get personal here. Like for me, I was getting a bit vulnerable where I was feeling like, for me, my biggest fear is death. Like I always fear about dying. And I felt like I haven't fully understood death until my grandmother passed away back last year in February. I was like, damn, so this is real. And that was like the first, like my other grandmother passed away when I was at St. Peter's with you, Ty, when we were freshmen, but it didn't hit the same because, for one, she lived in Carolina, so we weren't as close. And then two, I didn't fully grasp and understand the idea of death. But then now as a grown man at 25, when I lost grandma on my mom's side, who was literally like 2 towns away at the time, she lived in Irvington, I was like, oh damn, this is real. And you saw the difference of too, like we saw the family ties and saw how things were kind of ran through grandma, and it wasn't as tight of a family as a knit like we thought it once was, because now she's not here. So now I realize, like, I probably have to become that person. My mom has to become that person now to get the family closer again. But I read that book, obviously I read the Bible too, but I feel like the Bible, at times the Bible can be a little outdated. So you kind of easily fall off track. You kind of get a little bored. But I read that book because that resonated more with me a bit more because, obviously like with football and stuff like that. And then I just had that traumatic experience with my grandma. So that helped me build my faith up and not trying to dwell on it too much about death. Like it's a part of life. It's what happens to all of us. We all have a day, but in the midst of that, you just leave your mark about everybody you come across and meet, and hopefully, they all have great things to say about you and they celebrate your life. Don't let it be a day of sadness.
Yeah, I had a wild enough. I had a teammate in college that had Hodgkin's lymphoma, same as James Conner,
Yeah.
and he was out for the whole year. So when he came back, he told us, he was like, the fact that he was playing football, like that's like a miracle.
Yeah.
Like I could barely even get up and walk to go to the chair next to my bed. And the fact that he's taking these hits and then playing still, I was
Yeah.
like, that is one of the most impressive things. So when people say or think that their body's fragile, I was like, hey, if you could play when you have cancer, I can guarantee you can bend over and pick up the thing off the ground.
I definitely agree. And another thing too, going back to you and too, Ty, when with the whole thing with people coming, you don't know what problems they may be bringing in when they come in to work for rehab, and for you too, Pat. But another thing for me when I used to be in that field was I even realized it was just as simple as they just liked conversation because they didn't have much, they didn't have many friends, especially the older population, the geriatrics, they're all getting older. So most of their closest friends are starting to, die off. So they have a lot of loneliness and a lot of alone time. So they started coming to rehab and realized that it was a place of like, it was welcoming where we were at, where I was working. It started becoming like a hangout spot, and they did not want to leave. You feel me? So it's like, it's not even so much their hit, or like we had some people literally who were perfectly fine. They just had good insurance. So, of course, the companies, reeling them in, but you know how that go. But they would come in there just because they enjoyed our company so much and they didn't want to leave. So I think that's another thing too in that aspect. Just circling back.
Oh, Pat, what are you reading right now?
I right now I'm reading Principles by Ray Dalio. I believe he's like he's like a huge finance guy. So I'm not really big in like the finance economic world, like keeping up on it. But I think he has like one of the largest. One of my friends recommended to me just about his principles of how he got to this point. And so it's basically like it's important if you're gonna build the life that you want, you follow these principles and know that I'll help guide you with the choices of life. So like, all right, should I do this or do this? I was like, all right, what's your goals? Like, what do you want to do, and what are your principles that you stand on? So he's going through his principles and with the take what you want, take what's for you, and leave that now. Or listening to the audio when I just finished emotional inheritance, and that was how you can inherit trauma from parents of and so being aware of your trauma, what's around you, because if you're not aware of it, it's only going to repeat, and you're only going to pass that down to the next generation, to the next person. Well, you really have to take time and kind of figure out why you're doing the things that you're honestly like when it comes to life. Um, all your actions is just like learn because that's you're trying to survive, and so ultimately like everything that you do it seems like it's due to some type of trauma. So it's something that's off and something that's still right. All right, take time, process it, and then learn how to move on. That was a deep book. So it was a therapist and it was her client, her patient, and their stories, and then how they worked through it during the session. Hard to listen to sometimes because some of these
I'm gonna need to pick that one up.
What?
He would come home. He's like, this book is punching me right now.
Yo, just a quick story. This one person, he just had like an obsession with death. Like he'll come home in the morning, he's reading the obituaries, and he's always talking about like death. He was obsessed with death, and like his long story short, he felt like he had a brother. Like his mom was like, you don't have a brother. There's no ghost. But what turns out is that he learned this after his mom passed. That his mom had a kid that passed away after 8 months.
Oh wow.
And then she had him and gave him the same name.
Oh my God.
And so like
damn.
he never knew. He just had an obsession with death and always checking the obituaries. And there was just, and so he was working to and finally put the pieces together. And I was like,
That's crazy.
and so
that would have blown my mind.
Right. So you don't know what other people are going through, or like why people have certain habits, or like they don't even.
Yeah, man.
People don't know why they have certain habits.
Yep.
Some of these people have this bombshell like that dropped on them. So,
Yep.
what you listen to?
What's the name of that book one more time?
That book was Emotional Inheritance.
Emotional Inheritance. All right, but I'm gonna need that.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
He had said it, and I kind of wanted to read it, but I was like, I don't know if I'm in the right headspace to read that now.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I might uncover something. I don't know if I want to.
So the book is Emotional Inheritance by Galette Atlas, PhD.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just like stories of people cheating on their husbands or whatever, having an affair, even though they love their family to death, and they just doing it just based off like the traumas of their parents or like their grandparents, or just different things that they were just taught or really, when you just think about people, like we're so complex, and it's like if you don't take time to reflect and to get to know yourself, it's like things can go awry so quickly.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
And I think kind of like going and going a little bit deeper on that, like you were saying, what Keith said even mentioned, like with family, you know, he's big on that because like at least his support group is there, like he can rely on them, lean on them. So whether you have a core group of friends you can rely on and lean on, but for those who feel as though they don't have that, I think where like therapy is kind of key, you know, because it's hard to do a lot of that work on your own, you know. You can reflect all day and think about what you did wrong or what you can do better the next day. But what about those things that you don't catch? Like you said, those, you know, Tyler talked about it, you know, those unconscious, subconscious, you know, thoughts or actions. You know what I mean? And so when you kind of get with a therapist, they kind of see those things and they're like, yo, hold up, did you even notice that you were, you know, doing XYZ? And then I'm gonna tell you why, maybe because of, you know, whether any relationship issues that you have with your parents or, you know, happened to you back when you were 5 years old and you're like, oh crap, I didn't even, you know. I don't go to therapy, but I can see a lot of its benefits, especially for our community, you know. You know, especially in the Black community, we have a hard time, especially as Black men, being vulnerable and allowing ourselves to feel emotion, you know, just trying to just man up and get through the day, you know. So when something happens to us traumatic, we could feel a lot of pain deep inside, but we'll quickly try to numb it because, you know, we don't want to be seen as soft, or, you know, we're just trying to make it to the next day. But, you know, if you keep doing that, well, you're gonna be lucky if you see the next day, you know. So we gotta take it on while we can.
I think we had one person on our podcast that's a cognitive behavioral therapist, and
Okay.
she talked about, and I actually talked to Pat about this one of the times. I was like, yeah, I would go to therapy, but I really don't know how many traumas I've really had. And then when we had her on, she was like, there's big T's, which are like the biggest things. So if you think of someone that gets like sexually abused or just physically abused, things of that nature. And then you have like the little T's. So you talk about those microaggressions and not realizing, going back to your book, that it's like the body keeps a score. And I think that's huge for people to understand. It was like, yes, you might have had a trauma and you thought you got over it, but it was like your body remembers that wholeheartedly. And I tell that with my patients a lot. It was like, yes, your knee pain came overnight, but that was an accumulation of however many different traumas you've had to that knee that you never rehabbed, or a different body part. It was like, so although it may have seemed like it came overnight, I was like, that's months or weeks or however long of you putting trauma to your body. And now it's just starting to show you like, hey, you need to change something about your life.
And one of the biggest things that I took is like the definition, or like a general definition of what trauma is, like anything that can change the way you think or the way you act. It doesn't have to be something major. It's like anything that changes how you think or how you act can be defined as a trauma.
It's true.
It's crazy. Yeah.
That's fun. Now that's where I'd be like, that's powerful. You don't keep that. This is a powerful stuff right now,
Yeah.
man.
Just nowhere else.
And then going to a therapist because like, man, so I was going through some girl stuff, and I was talking to Tyler about it, and he was like, "You've been going through this for a minute." And so part of me, I was like, "Do I continue to tell him, or you know what I'm saying?" And so it's like that when you're offloading on someone that you love or someone that you appreciate or care for their just like you care for, it gets tough. So it's like, go to a therapist. They're unbiased and they don't have a dog in the fight. So it's like you can fully unload everything that you're feeling.
Right.
As much as you want, you know what I'm saying? Financially, you can do that. So it's like you're going to an unbiased place to unload. Not to worry about, are they judging me, or am I taking too much from them and I'm going to them to offload? Like, how much pressure am I putting on someone else?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like, for me, I never thought about going to a therapist until most recently. One person told me, they were like, the biggest thing they took away from therapy was, would you talk to a friend the same way you talk to yourself? And I was like, damn, I don't think I would talk to somebody else the same way I talk to myself some of the times. And that was big for me in all the books that I've been reading. The one that I'm reading now is The Brain That Changes Itself. Unreal book, because it talks about just how powerful the brain is. One of the stories they have is a lady was blind, and they started to teach her how to see by using her tongue. So they put something on her tongue, and that replaced her eyes based off different brain mapping. And it was like, it goes to show you how powerful your brain is, and how much you really have to take the patience and take the time to really give it what it needs. And I found what was interesting is then going back to the rehab and the therapy part, based on how certain people move, you can tell what part of their brain is probably not getting enough stimulation. And so then for me now, that is, if I watch somebody walk and I can see one part of their body isn't moving the way it should, it can relate to a part of the brain. And then I'm like, okay, now I see why maybe your inhibition isn't that good. Or when I watch you like look at me, your eyes can't stay on one target. So I know that you don't have the inhibition if I tell you to look at me, and you're avoiding eye contact or all those certain things. So it's like, okay, it leads me to think there's something deeper than just what surface level or what just your body is. It's like, there might be a thing that you might be feel like this is a stressful situation where you can't look at just me and you have to look at your surrounding areas to see. So it's like, then I know how to approach someone a bit better.
Wow.
That's some crazy stuff. I recommend that book.
Yeah, I gotta find out one.
I had just looked that up just now.
Yeah.
While you were talking about it.
That's some wild stuff. So I appreciate, especially Pat's been, we've been one or two books a month. He's like, hey, what do you think of this book? It was like, this is what I think of this book. This is some key takeaways.
We got to start a book club.
Hey, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm down. You know what I like about y'all dynamic, man? It's like, you could tell it's iron sharpening iron. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, also y'all live together, so that kind of adds to it even more. So if iron sharpen iron, and y'all like a fucking katana. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate you.
God, that's what's up, man.
But so when do you guys plan on doing another episode? Where can people reach you guys at?
So I would say you could reach us on, we got the Instagram page, Liquor Logic Instagram page, same thing, Liquor Logic Pod at Google. At gmail.com. And also you can follow Keith at you can tell him your Instagram and all that stuff.
Yeah, you can follow the kid on Keith_1, UIS_1. I'll do a lot of the reposting and stuff. We kind of were out of it for a little bit. Life started getting back busy, just work-wise, and work schedules weren't meshing. So that's why we took like a long hiatus from the podcast, unfortunately, because I get people asking me every single day. You can ask Stan, when y'all coming back? When is Liquor Logic coming back? We need that. And I'm like, Chelsea, I'm ready. I'm just waiting on my guy when he's good. When he give me the green light, we in go mode. And what I want to do is when we get back into it, which I'm sure to be soon, because actually, as of yesterday, I officially am free for the summer. the school just ended, so I had nothing but time. So what I would like to do for Liquor Logic is when we get back into it, which I know we will. I don't want to just spit out one episode. Like I want to do it where we already have 3 already taped or 4 already taped. So then that way we let people digest it or engage into it, and then boom, drop another one. Another week go by or 2 go by, boom. Just like how I'm into I Am Athlete or Pivot podcast because I love my sports. They drop one every Monday or every Wednesday at noon. I want to get back into that and be more consistent with it. And I don't want to start. It's crazy. Even my student athletes, they found the link. they already watched the podcast too. And I'm like, I ain't saying for y'all to go drink or nothing like that, but they really love it and enjoy it a lot. They're like, when are you and your boy do another one, Coach O? It's time, man. We ready. I'm like, damn, these kids not even 18 yet, and they're already into this. Pretty cool, man. It's cool. We touching people from all different ages with it, but we're gonna definitely tap back into it real soon.
And that's kind of like the space. My fault.
Oh, you good? Go ahead.
And that's kind of like the space that we try to create. You know what I mean? Is it's not about just like drinking just to get belligerently drunk. That's not what we're doing at all. But we just opening like a nice comfortable space. It's the same thing like when you're around with your guys. And then you're sitting in the living room and you're like having a beer or something like that. And you're sitting and you're talking, but we're trying to give substance and value to the people listening. Because I feel as though when people are sitting there on YouTube or they're watching these other podcasts or whatnot, they may feel as though they need to be around people with, that with either like a lot of money or a lot of like, in order to get that kind of knowledge and that kind of like those gems. But we sitting here with, people who we know from whether it be town or, just like we done linked up with y'all just now. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. But just showing people that like, yo, these people are around you. You know what I mean? You can literally get like $1 million worth of game type of deal from people that are literally like next door. All you got to do is just be open. You know what I mean? So I think we're kind of like trying to achieve that goal. I feel like people are kind of picking it up.
My last question, I guess this could be for each of you. So now that you've done all this self-reflecting over the past year, however long, what do you think success means for you? Or what would define success for you now that you kind of know yourself a little bit better?
I'll start it up. I'll go first. So me,
I thought he was asking you to.
Because he said both. So I was like, I was gonna oop it to you, but I'll take it. I'll Russell Westbrook this one. So for me, success is one, my parents saying how proud they are of me. Like, I think that to me, nothing tops that for me in my life at this point in my life. And a lot of things that I do today, I credit them. Like I was the guest speaker at my job yesterday in like a closing ceremony for school. And I was speaking on their behalf and their story and everything. And I was like, a lot of things that I am the way I am and the things I do, the way I have the personality that I have is through their trials and tribulations and their personalities and kind of like having a mix of both of them being important to me. Because I'm like, without them, I'm not here. So for me, success is definitely defined for me based off of their approval and appreciation of me, seeing their offspring doing things and putting a smile on their face. And then my guys are definitely next, right on the ladder, because I'm huge on brotherhood. I never had an actual legit brother. Always wanted a brother. So that's why I take my boys very personal and serious. Like, I treat them like my own. And Ty, you know this, and Stan, you know this, and Pat, when you come to the East Coast, I got you too. You pull up to my house, my mom treats all my guys just like they're her own, literally, because she knows if anybody is around me, they're like, oh, they're with Keith, I know they're good people. So she treats them just like family and welcomes you with a warm hug and have a nice hot serve plate waiting for you and everything. So when I get that nod and that confirmation from my guys as well, saying like they're proud of me and keep doing what I'm doing, keep grinding, keep my head up and whatnot, I feel like I'm succeeding. I'm in the right trajectory. So that's my.
Yeah.
Got you.
My sister cool too.
Bree. Shout out Bree. Success for me, man, is just like really inspiring. Like those who, when asked my story, or like, when people see the way I present myself when I walk in a room, or and they are, a little bit inspired, like, oh, all right, yeah, this guy is really like, he's not on no bullshit, you know what I mean? He goes to work, he takes care of the things that are important in his life, you know what I mean? Whether it be family is key, I make sure I'm not, like I said, out there running the streets, doing nonsense that wouldn't make my family proud, but more importantly, make me proud of the person that I am. So really, as I live my life and as I go and I do, I just hope to be an inspiration for others through my own actions and that spark. So that's kind of like, if I know that I could say, like, okay, this person in conversation is picking up a few things from what I have to say and seeing the way that I live, and that sparks in them to try to be a better person for themselves, then I did what I had to do. So that's what
I like it. Pat?
So, so right now, like, success means like building a foundation of like kind of where others can look at me as like, hey, you helped me through this. I didn't know where to go, but you gave me kind of like some advice, or whatever. And so just that part, just like being there for others, being solid enough for someone to confide in, as well as my ultimate goal is to kind of be like, Lord willing, if I have kids, I want them to have the foundation and to be able to navigate life and trying to make it that much easier if I can. And so trying to lay down for that foundation for not only for my future generation, but for other people to just kind of
Like
uplift
that.
and better themselves.
That's a good goal to have. Shit.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
generation.
I like that a lot. Man.
I was like,
Yeah.
he's selfless. I'm thinking about me. No, I'm talking about them kids.
Like, kids.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, damn, that's probably not going to be good to say.
Look, if I'm living like she is, my kid's gonna be living.
Well, there you go, man.
My kids didn't work to get here. Damn.
So look up.
All right, Ty, what's success for you, Ty?
It's just the we've been talking a lot about just what's your intention. So it's like, for me, every day setting an intention, and if I can hit 75-80% of my intention for that day, I know that I'm at least winning for that day. As if I can keep winning each day, it was like those will start to add up for me, so that way when I look back a year from now, I can say each day might not have felt that different, but now I look back a year and say, oh shit, this is the amount of growth or change that I've had, at least for the better. So I think at least writing down every day is like, if I can be consistent and write down my intention for that day and actually follow through with it. And then on the converse, on the rest of or at the end of the night, can I look back on the day and say, did I achieve that? If I can keep that consistent, I was like, then that's success for me, because my views of success is going to change depending upon what part I am in my life. But it's like, if I can keep that core value, then that will never change in whatever I want to do.
That's nice.
That's where I'm at.
That's good to have, man. That's good. Like, that's what I think,
You guys are hopping on.
Powerful stuff.
Sure. Hey, man.
Powerful stuff.
Thank you guys for having us, man. Seriously, I'm glad we made this happen.
Yeah, of course, bro. Good catching up with you all, and then we'll have to have everybody stay tuned for your next episode.
Yes, sir. I hope you have. We got y'all this summer.
Yep, of course.